Today, we are going to be ranking old school RuneScape skills from most useful to completely useless. And this is going to be Ironman friendly too, to keep all of that in the back of your mind. So, we got it all randomized, so we're going to be starting with Herblore. Herblore is interesting because you do need it. You need it for potions. If you are not an Ironman, obviously it would be a different tier list, very different tier list, but this is going to be an Iron Man friendly type of video. So we're going to honestly put it at A tier because if you want to do anything that's high level content whatsoever, you have to be making potions. You just have to be. You got to be making brews, you got to be making restores, you got to be making prayer potions. If you don't have that, it's just like you can't do anything, which honestly makes me even reconsider whether it's A tier or S tier, but I guess we'll leave it at A tier for now, but it can honestly almost be S tier because you really do need it. Slayer. Oh my god, you want anything good? Slayer. Slayer, 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 Slayer. So many things are locked behind Slayer. Honestly, the list goes on and on. And honestly, I'm literally thinking about Herblore. We're going to put it at fucking S tier. We just are. It just has to be there. I also wanted to... There we go. I want to reorganize it based on the order. And I think both of those are S tier. If you think about it, they just are so important. And especially if you're an Ironman, both those skills, just... You can't live without them. Cooking. Ooh, cooking. I mean, obviously you need food, but when you get higher up, you don't need food as much, but you still are always going to need food, and you're always going to need to cook your food. So I think we're going to put it either A tier or B tier, but I'm honestly leaning more towards A tier. Why is this lagging? I want to put... There we go. We put it at A tier. As no matter what, like, not only is it so important to actually have your food cooked, but anything that's literally related to PVM whatsoever, or even PvP, I guess too. You could if you're a PvPer, but you're gonna need food cooked. So just A tier. Honestly, very important skill. See, HP is honestly a very interesting one, as it obviously is important, but it's not like insanely important. So we're gonna put it at B tier because it has value, but nobody ever really gives a thought into, oh yeah, I want to get my HP level up, because it just kind of happens naturally. And in terms of how useful it is, the importance of it, it definitely is important, but it's not that important. You could get away with like 70 HP if like you didn't actually keep getting XP. You could be maxed combats with 70 HP and literally get away with it. Farming. How important is farming? Well, thinking about an Ironman, you need to be doing your farm runs, your herb runs. It just is something that you kind of needed to do in the same sense as Herblore, because you just need to do it, but it's honestly not as important as Herblore because there's other ways to get herbs to make your potions. There's other, obviously farm runs are going to be just very good for XP, but not necessarily useful. But in terms of usefulness, it's so close between A and B. I do think it does land in A tier because there's obviously other ways to get potions, or other ways to get herbs to make potions, but it's probably the best way to get herbs. You're going to be planting your seeds to get more herbs so you can make potions, so you can do bossing. It just becomes very important, and I think A tier is where it lands. Ranged. Ranged is interesting because ranged, if you're doing a lot of PVM, it's going to be dependent. Obviously, there's different bosses that use different combat styles on, but I don't necessarily think it's S tier. I think it lands at A tier because it's very useful as a skill. You want it to be a high level so you can do higher level content, but you could honestly get away with probably 90 ranged even at like the most hardest pieces of content in the entire game if you're skilled enough. And there's obviously also different combat styles, so you can avoid ranged and still have a good RuneScape experience. But it is useful, so A tier it goes. Woodcutting. Woodcutting usefulness. I mean, it's a very fun skill. Like, it's chill, it's AFK. But usefulness, I think it lands at D tier because what usefulness does it really provide? Not that much. I mean, I guess if you're a collection logger, you need to get forestry green logged, but my mind honestly isn't really going to a lot of places where it's very important. It doesn't really have much uses. Looking at fire making, I think it's the same thing. Doesn't really have much uses, not that important, not necessary to have a good RuneScape experience at all. Strength, S tier. Strength is definitely better, more important than ranged because Is it more important than range? Ooh, oh my god, is it? I think it is because it honestly, especially if you're doing melee, there's three different things when it comes to melee. You got attack, which I think is the same as range, but when it comes to actual damage that you're dealing, strength just becomes, the most important. Attack is accuracy, defense, not that important. Honestly, B or C tier, I think both of them fit. Honestly, I'm gonna go with C tier because I think it's more important to have health than defense. Defense doesn't really do much besides like the actual prereqs for equipping certain armor. So I think C tier. Attack A tier with ranged. Where's magic? There we go. Put magic in A tier as well. I think all three of those fit the same, and strength is just a little bit more important, as if you're doing melee, it's the actual damage that you deal, where range and magic has a lot more gear and influence. Like if you have a Tumikin versus if you have a Trident, it doesn't really matter what your fucking magic level is. If you have a Tumikin, you're doing a lot more damage than if you have a Trident. You know what I mean? I feel like that's pretty fair. Construction. Ooh, oh my god. You know, it's interesting. It's so interesting because, okay, if you're talking about just the skill, I think it goes into C or B tier because you obviously need to get around. It's very important to have a house, especially on an Ironman friendly. Thinking about it, it's very even more important putting it B tier. But when you consider the cape, the construction cape is literally almost as good as the max cape. It's so important. So I think when you take everything into consideration, I think construction goes to S tier. It is extremely important to have your own house. It is a absolute lifesaver, time saver, so fucking important. It's same as prayer. Prayer is just so important. If you have 70 prayer and if you have 99 prayer, you notice the difference. It saves you sips on your potions, especially if you're an Ironman. It saves you your sips. It gives you more per dose. It's so important in the sense that, let's say you're doing high level PVM, it gives you, having that extra prayer saves you an inventory spot that you can grab an extra brew. It just becomes so important and vital in the game in literally like so many different aspects that I think S tier is for prayer. Crafting. Oh, crafting. See, I have to think about Iron Man because when you just think about crafting, it's probably D tier. But when you think about crafting on an Iron Man, I'm pretty sure you need very high crafting levels to make Xenites. You need high crafting levels for a lot of other stuff. So I think it does go into B tier as it does have its value. It might not be the most useful skill in the entire world, but it definitely does have its value. Agility, I think C tier. C tier agility because it has value. Shortcuts obviously are very going to save you a lot of time, especially certain ones are going to save you more time than others. But having a high agility level definitely is useful and a very big time save in a lot of different locations. Rune crafting, I think rune crafting is D tier. Even if you're on an Ironman, like there's different ways to get runes. Like thinking about, oh yeah, I need to get blood runes. I'm pretty sure on an Ironman you would just like go to a store and buy blood runes. Same with any other kind of rune. Doesn't really have value. Doesn't have value in on a main account. It's just I think it just doesn't have value. Period. It's not very important skill. Thieving is actually the same thing in terms of usefulness. You don't really need thieving in terms of anything. I guess like in certain situations it could be argued to be C tier on an Ironman, as there's certain things like, oh, let's say you want your Blood Fury, but the Blood Fury is kind of obsolete nowadays because they have the Rancor that does so much more damage that you don't even need to really wear a Blood Fury. And a lot of times, even when you're doing like very, very high level piece of content, you're better off just bringing an Amulet of Rancor over the Blood Fury. Thieving also gets you the enhanced teleport crystal from the elves, but also not that important. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at D tier. I think it's just not that important. Mining as well, D tier, not that important. In terms like we're just talking about usefulness, you gotta remember usefulness. How useful is mining? Not that useful. Like besides, I guess there's like prerequisites for quests. So, but that comes into every skill, so doesn't really have an argument there. There's not really a lot of merit to having a high mining level. Looking at fishing, is fishing different in any way? I guess on an Ironman you could say C tier because as there are a lot of different places to get food. Let's say you're out of food. You got no food left. You need monkfish. You need Anglerfish, you need manta ray, you need something, and you haven't been getting it from bosses, and you're out of it on especially on an Ironman. Fishing does have value there because let's say you need food, you need food. Sometimes you need food, so definitely think it's more useful than everything in the D tier. So I think C tier is pretty accurate. Same with smithing. I think it goes into the D tier. I mean, I just was looking at C tier and said D tier, but sorry. Smithing goes into C tier because it becomes important in certain situations. It's very situational to need a high smithing level, but especially on an Ironman, there's going to be a lot of different situations that you need a high smithing level to make certain things. You need to make your Bandos God Sword. You need to make your upgraded armor. You have Bandos and you're trying to upgrade the Torva. I'm 90% sure you need a high smithing level for that. You need a high smithing level to make what the hell is it called? The Bofa. Yeah, you do. It's smithing and crafting, I believe. So smithing just has value. It's not necessarily like very important, but it does have value nonetheless. Hunter. Does Hunter have value? No, right? No, I don't think so. Like, okay, you want to catch some chins for range. I guess there's your little bit that could be argued for C tier. But besides that, not really. Nope, not really a lot of value. Fletching, yeah, sure. A little bit of value in the sense that, okay, I got to have a high fletching level to make my bolts, make my arrows, make my crossbow. Some value, not a lot, but some. Oh my god, we're done already. I can't believe how fast that was. But yeah, that is every skill ranked from most useful to completely useless, Ironman friendly. Let me know in the comment section if you agree with me, if you love me, if you hate me, whatever. Either way, take care of yourself and peace out.